Okay, if you would, uh, you know me, I like participation. And if we don't get it, we'll just sit here. But if you would, get your Bibles out and turn to Numbers chapter 13. Numbers chapter 13. Let me get my stuff ready here. I think sometimes we need one of these about the size of that airplane up there. And what we want to talk about this morning is faith. And what is faith, and how can we use faith, and how we can spread the gospel. Okay, let's go to chapter 13 in Numbers, and start with number 17, verse 17. And this is when Moses sent out the spies to go into the promised land. And I just want us to look at this in the way that we are today. Have people changed in the last 2, 3, 4, 5,000 years? No. They are exactly the same. And I think we become the same way even inside the Lord's church. And if you look at the church through a historical perspective, do you honestly, and I don't say this from a boasting way at all, so don't take it that way, but do you realize how fortunate we really are? Right now, there's estimated, and you hear me say this all the time, 25 to 35,000 denominations in the United States alone. You think about the original gospel, when it was started. And in Galatians, they were told that I marvel at how fast you've left the gospel for something that's being taught as the gospel, when it isn't the gospel. So the gospel is something so pure, but as the scriptures say, the way to heaven is very, very narrow, and there'll be very few that find it. You look at how our brothers and sisters in the past were tormented and persecuted throughout the years. In Europe, in the Alps, small congregations were in existence. The Catholic Church hunted them down, killed our brothers and sisters, all because they were trying to keep the gospel pure. And there's so many in the religious world that say you can't have the New Testament church. Well, I've always used this little analogy. It's kind of stupid, but I think it gets the point across. If they said that my great-grandmother made the best pumpkin pie you've ever tasted, and when she died, that was it. There was no recipe. And everybody for years and years said, boy, I wish I could have that pumpkin pie one more time. Well, lo and behold, if I am in some of her old books and I find that recipe and I make that pumpkin pie, would that not be her pumpkin pie? Yeah. It's the same with the church. If we follow the recipe, we've got the church as pure as it was 2,000 years ago. And people have changed it so many times to do what they want to. We have denominations that oppose each other. One believes this, one believes that. Both can be wrong. And we have to take so much effort. And I figure, sometimes maybe we get it called legalism and so forth. But Jesus said, if you love me, you'll do what? You'll keep my commandments. I go back, and God was talking to Joshua and told him to not turn to the right hand or to the left. Why not? Because we can't. We're not permitted to. And it's so serious to have the right faith. But let's go with verse 17. Moses gave the men these instructions as he sent them out to explore the land. Go north through the Negev into the country. See what the land is like. And I'm reading from the New Living Translation, I believe. See what the land is like and find out whether the people living there are strong or weak, few or many. See what kind of land they live in. Is it good or bad? Do their towns have walls, or are they unprotected like open camps? Is the soil fertile or poor? Are there many trees? Do your best to bring back samples of the crops that you see. And it happened to be the season for harvesting the first ripe grapes. So they went up and explored the land from the wilderness of Zin as far as Rehob near Lebo Hamath. Going north, they passed through the Negev and arrived at Hebron, where Hyman, Shinshai, and Talmai, all descendants of Anak, lived. The ancient town of Hebron was founded 7 years before the Egyptian city of Zoan. When they came to the valley of Eshcol, they cut down a branch with a single cluster of grapes so large that it took 2 of them to carry it on a pole between them. They also brought back samples of the pomegranates and figs. That place was called the Valley of Eshcol, which means cluster, because of the clusters of grapes the Israelite men cut there. After exploring the land for 40 days, the men returned to Moses, Aaron, and the whole community of Israel at Kadesh in the wilderness of Paran. They reported to the whole community what they had seen and showed them the fruit that they had taken from the land. This was their report to Moses. We entered the land you sent us to explore, and it is indeed a bountiful country, a land flowing with milk and honey. Here's the kind of fruit it produces. But the people living there are powerful, and their towns are large and fortified. We even saw giants there, the descendants of Anak. The Amalekites live in the Negev with the Hittites, Jebusites, and the Amorites who live in the hill country. The Canaanites live along the coast of the Mediterranean Sea and along the Jordan Valley. But Caleb tried to quiet the people as they stood before Moses. Let's go at once and take the land, he said. We can certainly conquer it. But the other men who had explored the land with him disagreed. We can't go up against them. They are stronger than we are. So they spread this bad report about the land among the Israelites. The land we traveled through and explored will devour anyone who goes to live there. All the people we saw were huge. We even saw giants there, the descendants of Anak. Next to them, we felt like grasshoppers, and that's what they thought too. How many people were there estimated right then in the nation of Israel? Was it 50, 100? Millions, right. Who said it? How many? Okay, 3 million. And those are estimates. There's a lot of people. But did you see how negative they got? You go later on, they wanted to kill Joshua and Caleb. And you know why they wanted to kill them? Keeping God's word. Out of all those millions of people, there were just a few that wanted to keep God's word. And I think that's how we are. We're very few. And even inside the church, we can become very negative. Who's to spread the gospel? Who? We are, right. Is it the preacher's responsibility to spread the gospel? Is it only the preacher's responsibility to spread the gospel? I think all the responsibility goes on your shoulders. That's how we think. That's exactly how we think. The preacher. How about the elders? Is it only them that's supposed to preach? It's every one of us. Can I control you, Andy Miller? No. Who controls Andy Miller? Stephanie. You know, Andy didn't say. We're all like that. I have to behave today. And Tara's here the first time in 6 weeks. It's good to see you here. But no, we are the only ones that can control us. Who's our enemy all the time? Who else? Ourselves. I think a lot of times we look at ourselves as grasshoppers. Just exactly like these people do. God promised them that they could go in and take this land, that what? He would give it to them. All they had to do was do what? Go in and take it. Wouldn't do it. Can't do it. They'd seen all the miracles performed. Don't care. And that's how we are sometimes. It's not my responsibility. I can't do it. What's a grasshopper's life? What's it consist of? Yeah, at the end of it, they quit moving. And we're like that too. I think a lot of times we're grasshoppers in cold weather. We can't hardly move around. But what's a grasshopper's life consist of? Where does he live? Huh? Yeah, well. But yeah, they eat. Their life consists of being in the grass. They never see the world for what it is. They're always way down in the grass. Once in a while, they might see one if they hop up. That's usually to get something else they want to eat. So in many ways, we're just about like grasshoppers. We don't get the big picture. We're self-centered. Like Barb said, we eat. Yeah, that's about all they do. Eat, make babies, and die. Yeah, Jim?
When you walk through a cluster of them in tall grass, they scatter.
Yeah.
That's what I think of. They get afraid, and all they do is they fly off
Yeah.
aimlessly and land somewhere else and get eaten by a bird.
But that's true. How many times have you walked beside a pond? And where do they jump? Right in the water. The worst place they could have gone. And after a few kicks, what happens? Gone. But we're like that in so many ways. We don't put any thought into how we're supposed to react to people. How do you spread the gospel? Really, I want to know. How have you tried to spread the gospel? Because you may think, well, this is a little bit personal. This is about the most important thing we do, is spread the gospel. And if we can't learn how to do it, I think a lot of times we're like the cartoon, and I'll show my age here, but a lot of you have seen it. I can't remember what Warner Brothers cartoon it was, I believe, but you always had that buzzard that was real embarrassed over everything. Oh, I couldn't do that. That's how we are. We're scared to save somebody's soul. How scared should we be over that? I mean, our basic tenet is to spread the gospel. How should we go about doing that? And honestly, after class, I'll have somebody come up to me and say, I'm glad that such and such spoke up because I've always had that question. We're afraid to ask questions. The apostles were afraid to ask Jesus questions. The scriptures say it, that they were afraid to ask him. Why would they be afraid to ask Jesus? Yeah, that's our fear. We don't want to seem stupid. Well, I got news for you. I'm stupid. I hear amens. Yeah, but we all fear, well, they're going to think I don't know my Bible. Yeah, well, that's real important there. We can say something. Lois Ann, if I'm telling you one thing and you see how I live with totally opposite, are you going to listen to anything I say? Never. That's why it's so important to set that proper example 24 hours a day. As you've heard a million times, being a Christian, and I'm not preaching to you, don't take it that way. It's 100% back at me. But being a Christian really starts when we walk out of here. That's when we start to be Christians. Because we're here to exhort, edify. How would you spread it? I'm curious.
I think we're also afraid of offending. We're afraid that the people that we're talking to, we know how they believe, we know they don't believe.
Mm-hmm.
And we're actually afraid we're going to offend somebody. They're friends. I mean, they're our neighbors, they're our friends, family.
Sure.
And you don't want to step on their toes or, turn away from you. So you just kind of hesitate on what you.
Okay, so what would be worse then? Not saying something?
Well, no. Worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Not saying anything at all.
Because that shows you don't.
I think that's the reason a lot of times we're hesitant
Sure.
about what we say.
And that's one of the reasons I want to bring that up is how should we approach somebody like that? I mean, there's ways you do that. How did Jesus start many conversations? With questions. Yeah, why? Why would he ask questions? Yeah, that usually really. Well, I mean, he shows us the correct way to do it. You know, you don't go to, Mark, that was dumb what you believe. Man, if you come across anything close to that, you've lost that person forever. But if you ask why and let them, maybe they don't even know why. A lot of people don't in the religious world. They have no clue why they do what they do because they don't study the Bible. Yes, Jim? Mm-hmm.
I go to a lot of events where one of the main constituents of people having a good time is alcohol. I don't drink it. They know that. And people, they just recognize a difference in you, and they see that. But just saying you're blessed. But one of the things that maybe, I talk to our kids about it, something and all, I think, how do you talk? You get so many situations, so do this on the internet, via media. How do you respond to someone gossiping? You say, I know I personally, sometimes I don't, I get caught up in it, but sometimes I find myself, what I try and do is say, I got four people to worry about, me and my group.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, just by those small things, I think people say, well, that's a different viewpoint than what the world has. Whereas social media allows you to go on there and critique somebody or gossip about somebody and just stay out of that stuff. It could be an example right away by doing it.
Yeah.
I'm talking to myself and being
Sure. But that's why I wanted to have this class and talk about stuff like this. I mean, it's one thing to just go over scriptures and so forth and see, yeah, I know we're supposed to spread the gospel, but how do we do it? Oh, yeah. But steering them might just be giving them a shoulder to cry on at the time. Bring in a meal. Tell them, how can I help you? Anyway, I tell you something that I do, and I pray every day, God, please give me somebody to help, and let me be wise enough to see it. And you start thinking then. I think about Tara. I think about Preston, Cameron, Kelsey, Sarah. That's just immediate. How can I help them? And then at work, it just comes with the mindset, and it starts to grow on you. Here's some other things from people. This is how we all need to learn how to approach people better and to open that door, or to see the door open, to see the door. And do I show that I care if I'm asking you a question? Do I care about you? Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you don't think they remember you, especially if you treat them nice, it's kind of funny. There for the longest time in Morgantown, we would go to Applebee's because it's where the office is, and reps would take us there constantly. We'd be there maybe 10 times a month. Well, now I'm there once maybe. But we always treated the waiters and waitresses very, very good. Always treated them nice, cared about them. I've had people that had problems in their life that would come and talk to me after a while. It's kind of, it creeped the other guys out. But, I knew what I was trying to do. And it's funny, I'll run into these people now, 15 years later, and they still remember me, and they still remember my name, and I still remember their name. And I may not have seen them in 10 years, 15 years, but they remember how you treat them. And it's the same. One thing I really like that you said, you don't hit them with the entire Bible. How many in here, when you became a Christian, knew everything you needed to know about the Bible? But people think that I have to have all the knowledge in the Bible to live my life. No, you're never going to get there. Sure. Yeah, we're human. Sure. You know how many times, especially when I started out working a job I do, that's been 28 years ago, I was terrified to talk to people, older people. And I'd had the Dale Carnegie course and all that wonderful stuff. But there's always that phobia in the back of your mind that's saying, oh shoot, they're no different than us. And if they do come across as arrogant, maybe they need to talk to you better than anybody else. But never be afraid to talk to somebody. That's one of the fears. I think what Jerry Seinfeld said, being dead's the number one fear, and saying the eulogy is the second fear. You know, you'd rather be dead than have to speak in public. Mark, do you have your hand up? I thought you did. I think you're fooling. Oh. I've parted my hair in the middle since I've been about 12. It's just a really wide part now. But no, there's so many things that you can do. Anybody else have anything you'd like to? Oh, yeah. 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 And do you know everything in the Bible? No. And you know what? You can know everything in the Bible and not live it. You know, you can know book, chapter, verse, but if you're grouchy, cantankerous, I read Galatians, Ephesians, and Philippians yesterday. And you know how many times that we are beaten literally over the head and told to be nice? Why are we told that over and over and over again? Yes, that's what we need. We're told to do things without doing what? Complain. Who complains? Oh, man, there's a bunch of liars in here this morning. But no, it's natural. And why is it natural? It's like failing. You know how many books you can find in the library on failing? What's that? Oh, yeah. Put it off. Make somebody else do it. How many books are there in the library that teach you how to fail? There aren't any, because anybody can do it. But to be a success, then there are books. And to be the best success, the one that has eternal ramifications, it's that. Have you ever seen a complaining Christian? Yeah, when we look in the mirror. How easy is it for us to complain, to be negative? Yeah. You know, there's always, has anybody in here ever heard of the myth tree? I was reading an article a while back. It was from the early 1900s, and the actual poem was written back in the late 1800s, but it's called the myth tree. And it says it grows usually in the middle of the church building. And when brothers and sisters become miffed, they fly out of their pew and go up and sit on their branch in the myth tree. And they look down on the rest of their brothers and sisters. You've hurt my feelings. And it says the only thing that will kill the myth tree is being humble. And there's a lot to that. I thought it was pretty funny. I'd never heard of the myth tree. But what are some other things that can help you be a Christian, to help you spread the gospel? You guys are doing great. I mean, it's already been half an hour. But if somebody's learning, if somebody becomes more patient, how about patience? How about when the stinking copy machine jams for the 5th time and you've got clients waiting in the room? What do? Yell at the secretary? Kick the machine? What are we supposed to do? I've shaken the copy machine a few times.
Get their email address. We email it to them.
But yeah, they're just little things like that can mean all the difference in the world. I'll tell you something I did 2 or 3 weeks ago. I felt so bad that we were working on electric fence on a Sunday afternoon. It was raining, and we had some fence down, and I was helping Preston and Kelsey work on the fence. And we had to go turn it on, come back, drive to the Kubota, come back fast as I could. I didn't know it, and they put up the spring gate. It's a gate that's an actual spring. The 15 seconds that I was gone, Preston had somehow managed to cover 300 yards and get the gate closed. I came around, plexiglass windshield, can't see real great through it, ran right through that spring gate. I stretched a 16-foot gate to about 30 feet, and I yelled at Preston. Bad. No swearing or anything, but I was mad. And then I thought, you idiot, that was totally your fault. And I apologized to Preston and Kelsey. I mean, I asked for forgiveness because I blew up, and I try never to do that. But evidently that was my day to blow up. But if you don't, what if you don't apologize? And here again, I'm not patting myself. I needed forgiveness because I did wrong. But what if you don't apologize to somebody? Oh, yeah. That Barb King. I'm going to flap in my miff tree. Yeah. But yeah. Why are we told if we know a brother has done something or a sister, that way you don't escape, why are we told to go to them? Are we told wait and see if they change what they're doing? Are we told, give them some time? What are we told? Yeah. We're to go. If I see Tom Hall do something or Tom sees me do something, maybe he just questions what I did and why. You ought to ask. That keeps the door open. If not, if the door's not open, what's there? A wall. And like Jim said, it grows and grows. What if the next time Barb King's walking Straits Run and she doesn't see me, so there I think she snubbed me as she's walking. Now I'm a little bit more mad. When all it would have taken is talk about it. And what do you do when you go to somebody? What is your point in going to them? To correct them? Is it to put the rod of correction down over their head? It's to show you love them. I mean, like you said a few minutes ago, Rodney, you got to know how to do it. How would somebody in here approach somebody that, say, was in Rodney's situation, has family members that might be offended? What if you have somebody that wants to be offended? Have you ever run into anybody like that? I have. Shoot, we all have. How would you work with that kind of person?
I think you have to show some compassion. You have to show that you care, that you're concerned about it. You have to let them know that.
And how do you do that, Rodney?
Well, I've told them, if I wasn't concerned about you or I didn't care about you, I wouldn't be talking about it.
I don't want to talk about Rodney.
Just let it go, and that helps, what I mean, to let them know like how you think, how you feel.
Yeah.
If you don't let them know how you feel about them, why should they even listen? Why would they care?
Mm-hmm. And are you going to have times where you're going to shake the dust off?
Oh, no.
Yes. Yeah, you're going to, eventually. But at least they know where you stand. Right. Yeah, because we're told. It can be our fault.
That don't mean you have to give up.
No. But it could be somebody you could pray for every day. You could pray for them and their situation, even though that person may hate your guts. You're still praying for them. And I'm old enough now, I've seen things change over time. You know where it says, cast your bread upon the waters, and many days it will return to you? I'm out long enough now, I can see it. Sometimes things will happen that you never thought would happen, that you gave up on. And it'll come back. You paying attention, Frank? Yeah, that's true. It can take years and years and years and then some. I know I preach to Preston and Cameron all the time. They say, "You're preaching." Yeah, I am. Because I want you to be patient. I want you to understand some things. When you're in your 20s, how many of you were really patient people when you were in your 20s? None of us were. About that age, you want to fight somebody. No matter if they've done me wrong, I'll whip them. How are some other ways you can approach people? Okay, that goes back like to muscle and a shovel. Remember? Mm-hmm. But it's yeah. You have to get friends. You have to do what first? You have to be a friend, and you have to be a genuine friend. How many of you have had somebody come up to you and tried to be your friend immediately for religion, and you knew it in a heartbeat? You know, they were a little too slick. Yeah, I've run onto those. You've run onto them. That's not doing it the right way. You know, if you smell a fish, there usually is one. Yes, and things like that. And by the way, you notice how we used to hand muscle and a shovel out a lot? They're not moving off the filing cabinet back there. And why is that? And who is your neighbor? Everybody. Not just Gary, Kathy. All right, grasshopper. There's your excuse. But no, that's how we think. That's exactly how we think. Exactly how we think. Yeah. Yeah, and how about what the religious world has done, denominationalism? They've made it so that if you try to tell the truth, they laugh at you. When it's the denominations that have made sometimes Christianity the laughing stock. Oh, you're a Christian? You believe in the big guy in the sky? They give you all that garbage? You know, yes, I do. I sure do. But you can get them into a conversation. Sometimes just asking them about, how do you think this came about? How do you think that came about? It's kind of funny. I got a guy about 2-3 weeks ago. He was talking to me about evolution and how he believed in it. And I just hit him up with something, and it blew his mind. I said, how did the first woodpecker live if he didn't have that ability? Anybody in here know? Evidently, I'm the only person that knows about woodpeckers. I'm an expert in something finally. But they have a shock cord that's attached to their brain cavity that keeps that brain from being smashed into the front of their skull. So if the first one didn't have that, and he went up there to that tree and started the rat-a-tat-tat, guess what happened to his brains? It turns into mush. He dies. The guy said, I've never thought about that. Sorry, I got lots of those, but yeah, Jim. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Lift yourself up by your own bootstraps. Not found in the Bible. Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree. I agree. Anything else? Oh, wait a minute. How many years have you been married?
But at that point, I solely believe in my product.
Yeah. Do we not believe in our product?
You're not going to tell me any different.
Yeah.
That's like someone trying to tell me that George Washington wasn't the first president of the United States. I'm not going to buy that. And I believe that with all my heart. I know it will ever change my mind. And I felt that way about this week. That's the best one on the market. And so no one was going to change my mind. And I produced a lot of income and bonuses because of my strong belief in that product.
Yeah.
And so the same outcome can come with what we believe in Christ, what we believe in the Bible,
Yep.
what we believe in God,
Exactly.
how we should live. We solely live it. I solely live that super.
And we don't have to be brainwashed
No.
because we know the truth. Yeah, that's, if anybody didn't hear that, Andy said he was a salesman and he believed in his product. And if you believe and you know how to sell it, and I hate to use that term in Christianity, and I know Mark's used it a lot, but it's true. We're selling somebody the opportunity for eternal life.
Walk in the house and you look at the house and you look at the needs that super can fulfill.
Mm-hmm.
And you start right there. Using that product to show, wow, look what I can do for you. Look how I can fix this or make that cleaner or whatever.
Sure.
Look at the life the same way. You say, I see things in your life I can help you fix.
Mm-hmm.
You know, let me give it a try.
But then they have to see it.
Let me demonstrate.
Yeah.
Let me demonstrate. Let me tell you how I used to be here. Now I'm here because I use this product.
And, if I might add, that's once they've let you in the door. That's the secret, is getting in that person's life. Yeah, that's the hard part. And it's just like being a Christian. To get in somebody's head, to finally get them to see something, it's the same thing. And it may take a long time knocking on the door.
Well, you call them up and you offer them a free set of knives. You know the routine. You know, and they say, wow, you know, okay.
The precursor to baptism.
I'll let you come in and demonstrate the product for the gift.
Mm-hmm.
The gift you're offering now is eternal life.
Yeah. And it's a very serious gift. It's the most serious thing we can offer, yeah.
Just like the knife.
It doesn't, well, yeah. It doesn't cost you anything to become one, but after that point, it costs you everything. It really does. Anything else on how you would spread, how a testimonial even? That helps us learn how to do that. She just grinned. What was it, Lois Ann? Are you wanting to keep that private? Okay, because Clint told me to be prepared. Was it self-embarrassing? It's a miracle. That's what just crossed my mind. Yeah. Maybe you're doing sleep laundry now. Sure. Because wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom. And how do you get it? Yeah, because that's real easy to do. Even when you're trying not to, you're trying your best, somebody can be, somebody can have their feelings hurt. And you won't know it. How do you react to somebody that has their feelings hurt then?
I found out how to discourage people from asking me if they can hunt on your property. Oh, yeah. Where do you go to church?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I talked so much about that, I didn't hear anything more from him.
Yeah.
I called him one day, I said, hey, you don't have to come to church nor to hunt here, but I don't want you to miss the opportunity.
Well, I remember when you talked to me about that. I think that was me. But no, there's all kinds of opportunity. But how do you see it? How many people do you run onto a day that you think, or maybe you should think, maybe you're not thinking, I could have talked to them about the gospel just a little bit.
You have to remember, no tax.
Yeah. Take a muscle and a shovel. I think I told you last time I taught class, one guy's way of doing it, he'll go and talk to somebody, and he'll have one of those with him, and he says, what's your name? I'll put your name in it. He writes their name. That way he's got their name. He knows their name now. He writes it, I think, in 2 places in the back pages, and he tears one of them out and says, now, can I have your phone number? I want to know what you think about this. And he gives them 2 weeks to do the book, and then he calls them. And the results have been phenomenal. But he gives them to anybody he runs into. We can do the same thing. I mean, that's an extra easy thing to do. Ask for a phone number and their name. But do we do it? I don't do it, but we all. That's right. Even if you're retired, that's still the preacher's job. No, that's everybody's job. And you can do it. What if you say, well, I teach or something, I can't do that at school? How would you do that?
Every Monday morning they start having prayer at the pole, and it's a community member that leads it, not someone that I know is a member of the church. But it'd be silly for me to not go participate just because of that, because now students know where I stand. So if a kid comes to me, there's kids who come to me since they've seen me go out there with that, that will say, hey, will you pray for this for my family? Because they know that I have some kind of belief, and then that's a way that opens
Sure.
the door for me to talk to them.
Yep, and that gives you an open conversation later on, maybe with that person that's leading it. You know, you can see what they're thinking, what's put together. Because a lot of times, folks that do that, in many instances, don't have a clue. They really don't have a religious background of any kind. But maybe that's another door. Well, yeah, that would make a great Christmas gift. You need it. I'm kidding. But no, that works. The one that Nancy Salai got for Kelsey. It ended up working on Kelsey. It ended up working on Logan Lake in North Carolina, and goodness knows where. I sent 3 out last summer with guys that were up working on a gas well. And you just never know. Thank you guys very, very much.